Artillery has always been the decisive arm of the modern battlefield, and in the Second World War, no army on Earth was more committed to artillery power than the United States Army. But a powerful gun is useless if it cannot keep up with the fight. As the German Blitzkrieg proved in 1939 and 1940, modern war was no longer about static positions. It was about speed, momentum, and constant movement. Germany's solution to this problem was the self-propelled gun. Vehicles like the Wespe mounted standard field howitzers onto existing, often obsolete tank chassis. By removing the turret and placing a gun on top, the Wehrmacht created mobile artillery that could advance alongside panzer divisions. It was a clever, cost-effective, and deadly adaptation. The American answer was fundamentally different. The United States did not simply place a gun on a chassis, it designed an entire weapon system from the ground up. That system was the M7 Priest, larger, more heavily built, and purpose-designed for American doctrine. The M7 embodied the U.S. Army's belief in overwhelming, continuous firepower. It was so reliable, so effective, and so well-liked by its crews that it became the standard self-propelled artillery piece for Allied forces across multiple fronts. This is the story of two approaches to mobile artillery, and why the American design ultimately dominated the battlefield. The German solution, the 10.5-centimeter Leopard-F-18 of Fahrgestell Panzerkampfwagen II, better known as the Wespe, was a weapon born of necessity. On the Eastern Front, Germany's standard 10.5-centimeter Leopard-F-18 field howitzer was an excellent gun, but it was horse-drawn. In the vast distances, mud and snow of the Soviet Union, it simply could not keep pace with armored formations. By 1942, the solution was obvious. The Panzer II light tank was no longer viable as a combat vehicle. Rather than discard it, German engineers repurposed it. The turret was removed. The engine was relocated forward into the center of the hull. At the rear, a thin, open-topped armored compartment was built to house the howitzer. The result was a fast way to get mobile artillery to the front using recycled equipment. But it was a machine of compromises. The Wespe was cramped for its 5-man crew. It carried a very limited ammunition load. Its armor was thin enough to stop fragments, but little else. It worked, but it was never meant to be a permanent solution. It was a stopgap. The American M7 Priest was not. From as early as 1941, the U.S. Army's Armored Force Board understood that fully mechanized divisions required artillery that was as mobile, durable, and reliable as their tanks. After brief experimentation with lighter prototypes, American designers made a decisive choice. The new vehicle, designated T-32, would be built on the chassis of the M3 Lee medium tank. This decision proved critical. Standardized as the M7 in 1942, the vehicle inherited the same powerful Continental radial engine, rugged suspension, and mechanical reliability as a frontline battle tank. It was not improvised, it was engineered for sustained combat. And that difference would matter. The M7 Priest was mechanically robust, easy to maintain, and capable of keeping pace with Sherman tanks on the move. Its fighting compartment was spacious by wartime standards and deliberately designed to support sustained fire missions. Its primary weapon was the superb American M2A1 105mm howitzer, a gun renowned for its accuracy, reliability, and consistency under heavy use. For self-defense, the vehicle carried the legendary Browning M2.50 caliber machine gun. This machine gun was mounted in a distinctive raised ring that gave the gunner an elevated, commanding view of the battlefield. British soldiers, seeing this configuration for the first time, remarked that it resembled a church pulpit. From that observation, the nickname Priest was born. On paper, both vehicles were armed with comparable artillery pieces. The German 10.5-centimeter Leopard-F-18 and the American 105mm howitzer were both highly effective field guns, capable of delivering devastating indirect fire at ranges exceeding 11,000 yards. The decisive difference was not the gun, it was the platform. The compact and cramped Wespe could carry only 32 rounds of ammunition. This limitation was critical. In any prolonged engagement, the vehicle would quickly exhaust its supply, forcing it to withdraw or wait for resupply from vulnerable, unarmed ammunition carriers. The M7 Priest, by contrast, was a mobile arsenal. Built on a medium tank chassis, it could carry 69 rounds of 105mm ammunition, more than double that of its German counterpart. This allowed Priest batteries to sustain fire for far longer without interruption, a decisive advantage in fast-moving, fluid battles. In terms of sustained firepower, the verdict was clear. At their core, both vehicles were a marriage of artillery and armored mobility, but the foundations were very different. The Wespe was built on the chassis of the Panzer II light tank. Powered by a 140 horsepower Maybach engine, it achieved a top speed of roughly 25 miles per hour. It was agile for its time and capable of keeping up with panzer formations. The M7 Priest, however, was built on the chassis of the M3 medium tank, a heavier, more powerful foundation entirely. It was powered by a massive 400 horsepower Continental radial engine and equipped with the rugged vertical volute spring suspension, or VVSS, the same system used on the M4 Sherman. This gave the Priest a higher road speed of up to 30 miles per hour and, more importantly, superior cross-country performance. Its wider tracks and stronger suspension allowed it to move more effectively through mud, broken terrain, and shell-torn ground across Europe. This was not a light tank chassis adapted for artillery. It was a true medium tank platform. The result was clear: superior mobility, greater reliability, and higher operational endurance. On a mechanical and tactical level, the M7 Priest decisively outclassed its German counterpart. But a weapon is only as effective as the men who operate it. And here, the differing design philosophies had an even deeper impact on the crews themselves. The Wespe was brutally cramped. Its 5-man crew was packed into a small box-like fighting compartment, dominated by the massive breech of the howitzer. In a sustained firefight, this space would have been a chaotic nightmare. Tangled limbs, scorching hot brass casings, constant movement, and shouted commands competing with the thunder of the gun. The M7 Priest, by contrast, was designed around its crew. Its large, open fighting compartment offered significantly more space. American doctrine called for a crew of 7 men, allowing duties to be divided and redundancy built into every task. This was not a comfort feature. It was a combat multiplier. The additional space allowed loaders and gunners to move freely, passing and loading heavy 105mm shells with speed and coordination. The result was a far higher sustainable rate of fire, exactly what American artillery doctrine demanded. War correspondent Ernie Pyle, who spent considerable time with Priest crews in combat zones, repeatedly noted their efficiency and teamwork. That cohesion was no accident. It was the direct result of a vehicle designed to let crews function at peak effectiveness under fire. Verdict: a decisive victory for the M7 Priest. Both the Wespe and the Priest were open-topped vehicles, leaving their crews vulnerable to airburst artillery and shrapnel. In this regard, neither offered full protection. But the similarities ended there. Built on a light tank chassis, the Wespe had a maximum of roughly 30 millimeters of frontal armor, with even thinner protection on its superstructure. It was adequate against fragments, but little more. The M7 Priest, built on a medium tank chassis, carried up to 51 millimeters of frontal armor. This provided significantly greater protection for the crew and, critically, for its large onboard ammunition supply. Against counter-battery fire, shell splinters, and small arms fire, the Priest offered a far higher margin of survivability. Then there was air defense. The Priest's Browning .50 caliber machine gun gave it a formidable means of defending itself against infantry, and crucially, against low-flying enemy fighter bombers, which were a constant threat on the battlefield. The Wespe's crew, armed with only a light machine gun, could do little more than take cover when attacked from the air. Verdict: another clear victory for the M7 Priest. The Wespe was a clever, cost-effective solution, and Germany produced approximately 676 of them. They served primarily with panzer divisions, most notably on the Eastern Front, where they filled an urgent operational gap. The United States, by contrast, produced more than 4,300 M7 Priests. This was not merely a vehicle, it was an industrial tidal wave. It allowed the U.S. Army to fully mechanize its artillery battalions on a massive scale, ensuring that American firepower could move, fight, and sustain itself wherever Allied forces advanced. And its impact was not limited to one front. It was global. Through Lend-Lease, the M7 Priest became the standard self-propelled gun of the British 8th Army in North Africa, where it played a decisive role during the Second Battle of El Alamein. British crews quickly came to appreciate the vehicle's reliability, firepower, and mobility. They did, however, have one major complaint. The American 105mm gun complicated British logistics, which were built around their own excellent 25-pounder ammunition. That issue led to the development of a British-built alternative, the Sexton. But it was the priest that set the standard. It proved, beyond doubt, that a fully mechanized, hard-hitting artillery force could move with armored formations and deliver sustained, overwhelming firepower wherever it was needed. For the Western Allies, this was a doctrinal breakthrough. Verdict: a crushing strategic victory for the M7 Priest. The German Wespe was a brilliant piece of battlefield improvisation. It was a smart, cost-effective solution that gave the Wehrmacht mobile artillery at a moment of genuine need. It was a weapon born of scarcity. The M7 Priest, by contrast, was a weapon born of abundance and foresight. It was a masterpiece of industrial design, paired with a clear and focused doctrine, more survivable, carrying far more ammunition, built on a stronger, more reliable and more powerful chassis. From the outset, it was designed to be the backbone of a modern, mobile, and relentless artillery force. The Wespe was a clever stopgap. The M7 Priest was a war-winning weapon system. It was the chariot that allowed American and Allied artillery to dominate battlefields across the globe, from the deserts of North Africa to the heart of Germany. So now the question goes to you. What do you think was the most underrated yet essential support vehicle of the Second World War? Let us know in the comments below. And for more deep dives into the machines, decisions, and doctrines that shaped history, like the video, subscribe to Battalica, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one.